Good afternoon, YouTube. Today I'm making this video about Castlevania and its hidden meaning in the ending of the final season, season 4. To those of you who have not watched it, I ask you to stop watching now if you don't want to have any of the spoilers. This will be basically my reflection about how it ended. To those of you who have seen, we know that Vlad Dracula Tepesh was reincarnated with his wife when they escaped hell, courtesy of Saint Germain acting on the orders of death. And one of the things that there are several things about Castlevania that I found quite disturbing in the previous season. But I think that this season, in season 4, was a completely different stance on humanity and many other things. It was a far more beautiful, more positive message that they were giving, contrasted from last season. I'll give you a little bit of what's going on. It turns out that death, the aspect of death, was scheming the entire time behind the scenes to resurrect Vlad Dracula Tepesh from the grave to essentially destroy humanity. And he was scheming through Saint Germain to open up a portal into hell and help Dracula and his wife, in spirit, I guess you could say, escape hell and occupy a body that essentially was created with it was half male and half female. It was I forget what they called it, but it was the hermaphrodite, essentially, that would house a god or be a god for the intentions of becoming a god. And when we all remember that scene, if you've seen it, that Vlad and his wife Lisa come out of the portal and their spirits are in an embrace, and they're so beautiful, even though they're escaping from hell. But you see their spirits rise up, and then Saint Germain essentially directs them into the corpse, into the body, to become their new corporeal form. And then you see their spirits essentially fighting within the body to try to figure out what's happening. And Death is essentially laughing because he hopes that Dracula will go mad, with his wife within him, essentially. And he hopes that in his madness that Dracula will wreak havoc upon the earth and kill as many humans as he can get his hands on, or his armies can kill, or whatever. Essentially feeding death for all time, because he complains that he's hungry and that there are not enough souls for him to eat, or something like that, enough death. So what I found really interesting is that the writers essentially took a theme from, how shall I put it, that humanity is trying to transform itself into God, and in that manner we have become godless. The supreme being that in my youth existed and everybody knew about and everybody felt compelled to be connected to is no longer in existence today. The norm is essentially a religious absence. Believe in science, believe in nature, and all the things that are tangible. There's something that stuck with me from Yuri Bezmenov, which says that there's a truth: 2 times 2 equals 4. And there's another truth, which is God, but that truth cannot be proven. We can't prove that, but we can prove 2 times 2 equals 4. When humanity abandons God and believes only in the principle, say, of science or mathematics or whatever, a tangible reality, society will die. Those people will die. The Babylonians, when they turned away from God, who remembers them now? Historians in distant memory. So when the writers created this particular situation, it was intended to the viewership audience as a warning that the act of picking the hermaphrodite as the god, essentially a potential god, is also commensurate with what humanity is trying to do. The ugliest part of humanity is taking the compassion, the love, the pure intent of humanity to become the highest that it can be, maybe perfect, and corrupting that to what they understand to be perfect. And the truth is that human beings, though they try to strive for perfection, perfection can only be found by your deeds, by your death. At the end of your life, God will judge what you were. And it seems like the way that they animated was so beautiful, that Vlad and his wife are the love of humanity, and the purity and that kind of innocence, I guess you could say, and beauty, and infused into a monstrous thing that benefits nobody except death. It's quite a statement that they made, and it is commensurate with the trajectory in which humanity is on right now. To forget the dignity of human beings, to forget the beauty of human beings, and create your own God, essentially. That's where we are right now. And I hate to make it political, because it's deeper than politics, essentially. It's about what's the moral superiority for human beings. And for me, the final episode was so beautiful, where all the warriors essentially found peace. That Alucard and Trevor Belmont, well, we didn't know that he survived, but that his girlfriend, the sorceress, essentially, or the speaker, she was pregnant, and she was basically trying to cope with the prospect of raising the child alone. And Alucard persuaded her to stay in his village, and so that the child could grow up happily, and that they would stay together as essentially a family. And then you find that Trevor Belmont survived his battle with death. So if I had been writing that, I wouldn't have let him survive. His sacrifice was so noble. It would have been better if he'd stayed dead. But anyway, we fast forward to the part where Vlad and Lisa Tepesh are seen checking into, like a cabin, I guess, for the night. And I guess the question that everybody would ask is, how on earth did they survive and then gain corporeal forms of their old bodies before they died? I think that's inconsequential. What the writers intended that scene for is everybody, including myself, hoped that Vlad Dracula Tepesh would have been resurrected somehow or brought back from hell. And because we all know that Lisa Tepesh was killed by um, the bishop of Targovishta or something like that. Um, Pardon me, it wasn't. It was another. It was a lowly priest or whatever the hell his station was. But that she was burned at stake as a witch was a very unjust death, and people have been hoping that, number one, that she would come back, um, because she died innocent, and for me, Vlad being eliminated in season 2, and I mean the way that entire season went down was ludicrous, because he was blindsided, even though everybody knew Carmilla was scheming and plotting, and like, I mean, they didn't do anything about her. Um, Essentially, we hoped, I guess, me speaking for myself and people that I talked to, is that the fans hoped that Dracula would come back. And so that final scene is more or less for the fans that were hoping for that, because Dracula essentially was at peace after he found his wife again. So the resurrection is like something akin to um, setting all accounts straight. Um, they don't explain to the audience how they survived, but essentially, after you see the two of them together, him and Lisa, he admits that he was insane, and that, I guess, that he needed her to get better, and she admits that she needs him as well, and so it was fantastic. I really, I think that the resounding message of the final episode of that show is just something very beautiful, something that's designed to give the viewership hope and not make them more divided or angry or whatever, because a lot of the second season, you know, Castlevania has very anti-Christian roots, I would say. The original goal of that show was to humiliate Christianity and to essentially create hatred for Christianity. Even though the crimes of this is a pseudo crime, um, they would say it's based in factual history, um, but essentially to muster hatred against the church, I would say, and hatred against humanity. Um, there are many points that I found reprehensible about the first few seasons, and basically the ending, um, where Vlad and his wife, get back together, and the way that they somehow, well, that they came back into the world. Um, that was really, I don't know how many of the fans will accept that outcome, because it doesn't make any sense. Um, I might add that Lenore committing suicide didn't make much sense either, but her character is very strong, so essentially she was unwilling to accept what Hector was offering. But I thought the ending with Vlad and Lisa Tepesh was fantastic, because in a way you have to pity Dracula, because his grief was so much over losing his wife that it drove him insane, mentally unstable. When Alucard was killing him, he basically said, it's this is a suicide note. The he knew his father had already given up on life. It's just, forget it. No, he doesn't care anymore about anything. The death. He wants everybody to join him in death. So anyway, that's just a little reflection on the ending of Castlevania. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe this video, and just subscribe to this channel if you would. I would love to have discussions with all of you. Thank you.